Shellheads, 40 years in. It is the 40th anniversary of our beloved Heroes in Half Shell. And guys, we have been given a gift. Those of you that are of a particular vintage know that it has been a minute since we have had a truly breathtaking live action adaptation of the Turtles, and we got the announcement it is coming. A an R-rated live action Last Ronin movie is on the books, scheduled to happen. Guys, when I talked to Eastman, when I talked to Kevin Eastman, he had this look in his eye when we were talking, when I brought up the live action version of Last Ronin and the potential there, that I didn't want to read too far into. But not long thereafter, not long after having that conversation, guys, we get the announcement. And I am sometimes the clouds part and we are just given a fastball straight down the middle. So, guys, we're going to talk about some of what we here at the channel totally want to see out of this live action Last Ronin movie. Guys, this is the opportunity to slide this movie in as a love letter to the 90s. Yeah. So, number one, this is the opportunity for us 90s Turtle fans to finally get some closure. Guys, if you are new to the Turtles or just simply have been living under a rock, for those of you that don't know, The Last Ronin is meant to be the finale of for the original creators, for the original run of the Turtles. Longtime fans that have only really engaged with the cartoons may be surprised to know just how violent and just how dark the original version of the Turtles were, the original Mirage characters. They are very much based in that Frank Miller Dark Knight original Daredevil from the 80s run of comics that was dark, that did tell story, but wasn't afraid to be dark and brooding. And this story, The Last Ronin, is meant to be a capstone on that world by giving some nods, giving some tip of the hat to enough of the continuity where you could completely sell this story as 100% based in that world. Likewise, this is an opportunity for us as fans of the OG live action Turtles, really arguably the version of the Turtles that really kicked about Turtle Mania, the height of Turtle fandom at a widespread angle between the movies and the cartoon at the time. Turtles were everywhere. And we a lot of fans from that time kind of have a lot to say about how that trilogy ended up going. And while there could be some complications because the rights, this group does not own the rights to the 90s version of the Turtles, but really you don't need that much to be able to set this in that world, at least to a point where the aesthetics, they look the same. The grit that was established in those movies, that looks the same. And honestly, that version of the Turtles serves as a perfect runway for the creators of this movie to be able to really take the gloves off. I think I hit the mic. Yeah. And really, this version of the Turtles, the 90s version of the Turtles, really serves as a strong runway for the creators of this movie to be able to take the gloves off, dig into that R rating, and tell the Last Ronin story in its authentic voice. So that actually leads to number 2. Be authentic to the source story. Guys, if for I know I know somebody on the creative force, right? We just know, us our little our group of shellheads in this corner of the internet verse, we know that some of the creators are watching right now. So my 2 cents to you watching, you creative voice, lean into the fact that The Last Ronin was wildly successful and incredibly loved, critically lauded for what it was able to do, and the story that it was able to tell, and the way that it was able to tell it, and the grit and the grime for a whole new generation. For those of us that know and love the Mirage version of Turtles, it was that level for a whole new generation. Lean into that. You have the story in front of you, so just tell the story. Now, there is one little caveat, right? Along the way, we have different flashbacks. We have different group scenes with the turtles within the Last Ronin context. Now, spoilers, we find out that only one of them is still alive up until the end, but you could spend the early part of movie number 1, we'll get there, to tell a story that makes you care, that brings fans in, that says, okay, come close. And you're going to get some high fiving, cowabunga action from the turtles. And you're going to get some high fiving, cowabunga action from the turtles that you know and love. And you get some of that charm from the 90s storytelling and all of that. And you get folks to come in and lean in close, and then you rip their heart out. Tell the story. Don't hold back. Let this thing go full John Wick by the end of this thing. Let the bodies hit the floor. No, this is not going to be a movie for all of you younger shellheads, in the same way that Mutant Mayhem was more that speed. And that's okay. You can have more than one version of the turtles. We've had this for a long time. So allow for a little bit of storytelling that the book didn't really go into, because then that emotional impact will be felt that much more. Now, there's a lot to the Last Ronin story. There's a lot to the full expanse of this thing, especially if you're adding on a little bit of emotional backstory, right? Maybe you see them successfully do something. Maybe you see a feel good moment before you really start to set up this world of um the future scape of the Last Ronin. You need, I think, to tell this in 2 parts. Now, I understand there's always an inherent risk with a two-parter, where one's better than the other, or maybe there's not a commitment to telling the full story, and so one is given more steam than the other. But if the creators are committed to telling the full expanse of the story, you can have 2 individual movies that can allow for room for characters and setting to breathe. Separate, fully, completely different, a completely different tone than what we know from comic book movies. This is something entirely different. And fans, shellheads, let it be something entirely different than the last superhero movie. Because Turtles is a different voice than American comic books, like the big two sort of deal. It's just a different voice most of the time. So let it be that and let that be okay. But that's that third. But at number 3, I'm saying make it full on two-parter. Let number 1 be a story that's told up through the introduction of, let's say, the introduction of Casey or of April and the kid and all of that, and let that be a cliffhanger for number 2, where you tell this story of the last Ronin's avenging of his family in his last crusade, heading into, let's say, a post-credit scene that leads into our number 4. And who knows, maybe you get an end credit scene that leads into our number 4 must see. Open the door, leave the door open to expand the world regardless of future plans, because that's again how the story ends off. It was brave enough to say, okay, here's a new set of turtles. We don't know whether or not we're ever getting a sequel, but we're leaving it hope filled because, guys, this is TMNT. Yes, this is going to be gritty, and guys like me, particular Turtles fans, we're gonna love every minute in this world, regardless of how heartbreaking it is, regardless of how emotional it is, regardless of how dark it is, and how much it dares to take itself seriously, because we are going to love every single second of that. Likewise, that happier, light-hearted version of the Turtles should have a voice too. So leave it off with some hope with the new generation of Turtles. Leave the door open to be able to grow this world, because right now the comics are showing that you can keep playing in this world. There's more stories to be told outside of just the last Ronin proper within this story. So let the world be open to that. And even if there are no plans to continue it on, you can still establish a world that others can play in on down the line, even if nobody ends up playing in that world. 2. Number 5 on our list, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, especially with the story that The Last Ronin tells. We gotta have good fight choreography. It's gotta look good from an action standpoint. That I really think is going to be a big make or break for this movie, which will be made exponentially easier and allow for a more lived in immersive experience, and could be used as that tip of the hat to the 90s continuity if at number 6 we get rubber suits. Bring them back. Okay, some CGI, fine, but part of what made the 1990 version so beloved is it was on-site practical effects rubber suits. We can do it. That will sell, especially in this kind of story. That will sell. Some CGI, do what you got to do. I don't care. But should be people, rubber suits, good fight choreography. Then I promise you, many of us that will forgive a lot of sins that other sins that these movies could commit. So a couple of things before we wrap this thing up, guys. Let's be hype for the last Ronin movie coming out, and if we get none of this, or if we get different things or things like that, let's go in with an open mind. Let's not hold our opinions so sacred that we are unwilling to hear the voice of the creators or experience the movie as a whole or anything like that. Let's not hold any of it so tight that we miss a good time because, guys, it has never been a better time. 40 years in, it has never been a better time to be a shellhead. Yeah, I lived through Turtle Mania, and there's beautiful aspects of Turtle Mania. Do not get me wrong. But we have something that's lighthearted, something that's pushing the envelope, doing something different. Pushing the envelope doesn't mean dark and gritty. Pushing the envelope just means you're going in a brave new direction. And that's what we have with Mutant Mayhem. And now and we have a brand new set of comics coming out. It's a brand new day for the comics world. And we have this a renaissance potentially for live action Turtles storytelling. Guys, we are spoiled as shellheads. So enjoy it, live in it. Guys, until next time, Cowabunga.